Okay, welcome everyone. I think we are live, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thanks to Yunus Emre Institute and Leighton House for making this possible. I'm very delighted to be talking to Murat Ferhat Yegül this afternoon. And so welcome, Murat, and all the way from Kazakhstan, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for welcoming me and being with us. Yeah, the distances are not too much now, anyway.
Yeah, the magic of Zoom. Murat, in order to get us started, I wonder, I don't know how much experience our audience have had of the Ney in the past and how much they know or how much they don't know, but I wondered if you could just tell us briefly what the Ney is, the instrument that you were just playing, how is it constructed, and just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, nowadays they do it from different materials, but originally, from what we know, that it's been made from a type of bamboo family. It can be called kargı, kamış in Turkish language. There might be other names. There's a specific family of that bamboo because there are no huge bamboos in China, in India. This is a thin one, and in order to have a good intonation, which means tuning from the snare, it has to be most of the time 9 segments. Well, people tried different numbers, 8 or 10, for example. Actually, I've even heard 7 or 9. From Ömer Tuğrul İnançer, from one of his speeches. He's a Mevlevi person. So he said that Ney can be 7 segmented or 9 segmented. That made me quite interested about the subject. So yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned the segments of the Ney. Could you hold up the Ney and show us what a segment
Sure.
is, just so that we can see how it's
Yeah.
constructed?
You know, initially this bamboo was green, and then when it turned to yellowish, it is collected, or if it's a better one, if it's a more lucky situation, then sometimes it dries on its own tree for 1 year, and then it can be collected. So it turns to this color, and the segments that you can see are actually closed from inside. So this Ney making, we call it actually Ney opening, is all about the knowledge of how much we should open them from inside to bring it to a balance. There is another instrument called kaval in Turkish music. Also, it's used in Bulgaria, maybe more countries. You might let us know if there was any more. But I know specifically Bulgaria and Turkey, it's very common, this instrument. In Turkey, it's used in folkloric music, mainly. But that instrument is very similar to Ney, which has got the same embouchure, which means playing way, the mouth position, and played on the same angle, but it is from wood, and it can be better, it could become standard, because it's always, you know, the makers, they use their instruments to make it perfect. So it starts, let's say, 1.8 diameter, and it ends up at 1.8 diameter, and inside is all the same, is flushed. But this one, it's all depends on how much you open it. Some makers open it quite a lot. Some makers, the opposite, they open very little. It is like impossible to understand the balance between, because I have been trying, I mean from my experience, I've tried lots of ways to make it balanced, it's really difficult to, even if I think I find it, after some time I think that I was wrong. It is like, because there's a balance between the upper four and to my experience, and the bottom four, and it changes the intonation, the balance, the inner balance of the instrument. So it is much difficult than a kaval to tune because of these inner segments. So the air goes like this. It's every time it becomes narrowed. It depends on how much you open it, but that narrowing makes the sound smooth. It is unlike kaval. Kaval is not very capable in high register, but Ney can go to high register smoothly. It wouldn't disturb another musician just right beside you. But kaval wouldn't go that much upper notes because there is no segment inside, and it can become very powerful in the lower register. It can be okay for up to some limit, up to a limit. It can go to high register as well. They do, but Ney goes more than that. That's in my opinion. It's because of the first of all, the first segment is opened the least. It's got a tiny hole. We call this ses kutusu, sound box, and the rest is a balance to it. Yeah, and small differences, changes. It's obvious, very obvious. Creates very obvious changes in the harmonic balance. Sorry, you asked me a simple question, but I came to more complicated things.
So, Murat, this is interesting because it takes us to a very interesting connection in the construction of the ney, because I know that you're also a ney maker as well as a player. There is a kind of a metaphor which is very famous, I think, in Turkish culture from Maulana Rumi in Masnawi. His famous opening words about the ney. Make a kind of comparison between the ney and the human being, and this is about how the ney was cut from the reed bed. And I just wondered, if you could say anything about this connection, this poetic kind of connection between the connection between the ney instrument and the human being.
Yeah, there is lots of symbols as well, like relative, like ney being nine segmented, and the human larynx is being nine segmented. That I've heard. Maybe I should really go and ask the doctor, or I should read some anatomy books. But I've heard that this is one of the things, and it is in Turkish music. It is considered to be the only, or the instrument which is most closest to human voice. Maybe this can be one result of this being nine segmented, and there is something called insanı kamil, which basically means like perfect human. So this is also representing that, but it can never be perfect. Maybe I am trying to make it for it's been more than 15 years, and it's like sometimes I lose hope, and sometimes I become hopeful. It's been going on like this because it is very flexible flute. So the good ney players with good ears can play it in tune. I believe that's how we've been playing it, and there has been maybe never been a perfect ney. But a good ney player, with good ears, or very talented ney player, can sometimes play his ney perfect when he's in a really good mood, when he's very good shape and a good heart. Then it can be played perfect. But maybe it's not possible to make it perfect.
Yeah, and the question about what perfection is always there. But I think it's this thing that you touched upon. It's the emptiness of the ney that makes it resonate, and as far as I understand, the metaphor is that the human being has to be emptied of him or herself before it can receive the breath of the creator, you know. And this is the idea of the human being as an instrument is a very fascinating poetic metaphor, I think. And I think one of the things that draws many people to this tradition, and I think you can also hear that in your playing, as we heard earlier on. I think Rumi says something like, you know, that the ney complains or wails because it feels like it's separated from its origin, and I think you can hear that in the sound of the ney. Maybe you could give us another little demonstration about how the ney has this feeling of calling or loss or yearning. This is anyway the kind of words that I would use to describe it. But yeah, maybe you could just give us a little demonstration and show us how the ney creates this feeling.
Right. Thank you for mentioning this. Your earlier comments were the missing bits of my of the answer that I should have. The emptiness and the breath, as you mentioned. Yeah, the sound is really flexible, so it makes it, you know, it's like you can play it like a natural wind sound. So that flexibility is a unique thing for a flute. You are an expert in many types of flutes. Maybe I can ask you, to my knowledge, I think this is the most flexible flute, the embouchure wise, because we can really grab it with our lips. But in my opinion, most important role has the teeth, the jaws, the tongue, and stuff like that. But the lips are controlling all these matters. So, is there any other flute like this? Because I think you are an expert in many ethnic flutes, Western flute, and all of them.
Yeah, there are flutes which are blown in this way, using this what they call bilabial blowing method that the Turkish ney uses, like the Arabic ney, and you mentioned the kaval and also the filimbi in Africa, and in Ethiopia there's a flute that is blown this way. There are many flutes blown this way, but I think the Turkish ney tradition carries this to a very high level of development. And in terms of the sound of the instrument and the construction of the instrument, it's probably, you know, very, very highly developed, because I think it's a very urban tradition that was developed under the Ottoman, specifically Ottoman system. So I think it's become very unique in those possibilities of tuning, like you say, and flexibility. Yeah, I agree. And but yeah, I just was interested in how that flexibility can sort of conjure up a feeling of yearning. I think that's what I would say is the unique musical sensation that I get from listening to ney players, is this feeling of almost sadness, I guess, and the way that sound really creates that. That's, I mean, that's a personal thing, but maybe other people have that experience too. I should say, by the way, as I'm talking, there are, I should say, I forgot to say at the beginning that there is the chat, I think, is available to everyone. And so in the Q&A, if anyone wants to ask questions, we already have one or two questions coming through. So if as we're talking, anyone thinks of any questions that they would like to ask, then please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will do our best to answer them at the end or as we go along. So don't hold back if you think of anything. But in the meantime, in fact, there's one question here which Paul has asked about the bamboo that's grown. Where is it grown for making the ney? And I would just say, actually, sorry to correct you, Murat, but actually it's not a bamboo. It's a grass, and there's a difference. It's Arundo donax is the type of grass that is used for making the ney. And it's the same reed that is used in clarinet and oboe reeds. So it's a very important instrument making tool across the world, really. And maybe Murat could tell us where it grows best. I know that there are parts of Turkey where this grows very the best reeds are grown. Can you say anything about that, Murat? Where, how do the growing conditions and the moisture and the climate affect these things? Are there particular regions where it's better to collect the material for the name making?
Yeah, thank you for correcting me. That's something I was wondering actually. I didn't go so much scientific in that matter. In Turkey, we call it kargı. Also, I was sometimes when I read about this, I hear that in Sumerian language also they used to call it ni or kagı. So the word kargı, which we use for kamış means pipe. We call it like pipe because in Turkish the straws that we drink is also called kamış, but this is also called kamış. It's different situation here. So we don't. Maybe I didn't go so much scientific, but it's good to know which kind of in botanically to know it, and later maybe I can make more research about this. In Turkey, is Hatay is to be said to be the best place. Hatay, which is also called Antakya. Iskenderun is the town of it. And Syria is great. I've been there, and then it wasn't time. It wasn't time to collect bamboos. I went for a concert in 2008, but I made some friends at that time, and then they were telling me that come again in the harvest time, which is November, December, January. But then it's never happened, and the war started in Syria after a while. I wonder if there's still good bamboo fields or kamış fields. But in Turkey, Adana is also good. Even Antalya, even Bursa, and there you can. I've met many name makers, kamış collectors, and they always some of them said to me that you never know where to find it. I think a guy told me that even once they found in Istanbul, in a place particular, but the most well-known place is Antakya, Hatay, Samandağ. There is this place called Samandağ, and unfortunately I am not so much knowledgeable about the climate, but what I know is that a place with very sufficient water is good, and I cannot say much about the climate. The name makers in those places can give a better speech than me. What I do, I every time go to them and then I try to grab the good ones. It's kind of a struggle it's got so much popularity in Turkey. Everyone is making nays. Most of the name makers just they imitate, they copy one another. They buy from an expensive or a well-known name maker, and then they look at it and then they do the same place. Many of them don't think so much about the inside, or they think, but they didn't go so much deeply, in my opinion. So I sometimes see amazing bamboos. I get jealous that, but then I play them. It's out of tune, and then I feel bad. I haven't been lucky lately to find good ones. Soon my good bamboos are coming, because 1 year ago I bought some. They've been drying in Kayseri, in my mother's hometown. So soon they will send them to me, and then I'm very excited to get. I've seen their pictures. They've dried now, and soon after a very long time I will get new bamboos, new kamış.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you started on? Because I know that you originally started not playing the ney but playing the trombone, and then you moved to the ney, and then at some point you started making neys. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that decision to start to make your own neys. What was it that made you sort of feel that you needed to make the instrument rather than just buying one from somewhere and playing that?
I was buying. I had a couple of neys when I was a student in Konya. And I didn't have so much money to buy all of them. I had a couple of them. Maybe I had, but I spent other things because I needed to buy electric piano and stuff. Uh, so I also at one point I think having a background in a Western music school which has a different discipline, I have become fussy. I didn't like okay, this Ney is like this, but if there's a problem then you do this. I didn't like that stuff so much, just to tilt my head or tilt my lips. I become fussy about notes, and I think it was 2005 first time, or maybe 2000. Now I remember earlier than that. Once I've seen a brother, an elder brother of mine in Ankara. I said that this Ney has this problem. This re is not in tune, because re should be in tune. You need to play the open re and the after being warmed up, they must be in tune to each other. It wasn't in tune. It was quite out. So I saw the guys actually cut a bamboo, round shape, and then he closed it, and then he altered the whole. I was amazed. I thought, wow, this is both possible. The idea was in my mind all the time. So in 2005, I did first time in one of my kıznays. I started it, then it became like a mess. After in 1 month's time, I started altering all of them. That become not usable after some time. Maybe it was still usable. When I got the sticks to open from inside, I got a couple of 4 or 5 different sizes of iron sticks to alter the inner segments. So when I start doing that, then my nails turned like a rack that I could never use them because I altered so much. I tried to find the octave balance, the harmonic balance. Yeah, you asked me another question as well, but I jumped into the second one. So up to you. You can decide. Shall I continue from here or?
No, it's fascinating because I think the interesting thing is that as many musicians, probably many musicians listening to us, will have the experience of playing instruments, but not so many people will have had the experience of playing instruments that they've themselves made. And I think was a very common experience not so long ago, possibly even in the Mevlevi tradition, which we should talk about a little bit. When I understand that often the teacher would make the ney for the student, or possibly then the student would make their own instrument, because they are relatively simple instruments to make. And I'm just wondering, what are the creative possibilities that open up to us if we start making our own instruments, as opposed to them just being something that we buy from a music shop, So yeah, so you've answered that very well, and I've just noticed that Mehmet has asked us, how did you start playing ney, and how long did it take you to start playing confidently? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. It took me a while because I was still practicing the trombone. I had a couple of ney teachers in Konya Conservatory. Some of them said that you must give up one of them, the trombone, if you want to be good. One of them kind of encouraged me, you can do it, but be careful. Because they had different measures. Later on, I found a way to play both of them at the same time, because I used to play the trombone a bit too much pressure. Then when I started finding the more to be non-press technology on trombone, I found out that it was actually helping my ney playing. Sometimes if I really played the trombone in a good technique, and then I could just leave it after 1 minute, I could play the ney good. There was times. Nowadays I just focus on ney. I didn't play the trombone long time. When I was in Western music school, I was in one of them that is so much focused on the classical, Western classical music, and they kind of the teachers there at that time. I don't know how is it now. The teachers there, they didn't like much about Turkish music, and they would say to us that don't deal with it. It will ruin your ears, your hearing. I mean, because of the microtunes, I guess. It actually they could have been right, but it can be turning to the opposite, because I mean if we can hear some of the makams or many or all of the makams, makam cheshnis are the makams are made up of fifths and fourths, and they have microtonal perdes are the degrees. So if we could hear them, and some of them are flexible, those perdes are flexible, then we can also hear the tempered system of Western music, which means every note is equal to each other. So from do to do, which means C to C, there are 12 notes, and Johann Sebastian Bach, I think, if I'm wrong, correct me, he turned the piano forte for the first time into a tempered piano. And from then on, it was the harmonic structure of Western music become more complex. Could go more complex, because before maybe there was not. Before, I think in medieval times there was quarter tones, which is not they were not equal, but then you couldn't put so much complicated chords on them. So I have a piano here, so I'm just touching it. Maybe like if maybe it could only be some chords, but if you make it more bigger chords, more complex chords, maybe it would sound so much stressed or not good. So I was thinking that by doing this, Johann Sebastian Bach opened the way of the Western music to another extent, but also at the same time it closed in some other things. So the teacher said to us that it's Turkish music would ruin your ears. Don't deal with Turkish music. They wanted us to focus. They were right, maybe, because we were very young, and we needed to train our ears just for major and minor tonalities for some time, and there are other tonalities as well, but in a tempered scale. But maybe they were not right. I don't know. Maybe it was possible to learn both of them at the same time. So I went to a Ney teacher in Ankara.
They're completely wrong.
I was okay. Yeah, I want to give a break to my speech then.
No. I'm just jumping in because I feel strongly about this. A good analogy is speaking different languages. You know, I think there's a lot of chauvinism in music, and particularly in Western classical music, about how different activities will ruin your ears. But actually, it's perfectly possible to speak different languages, and I think it's possible to play. From my own experience, it's possible to play in different tuning systems.
Yeah, I think so, because
as long as you do both.
Because children are told to be safe. They say that children can learn the 3-4 languages at the same time when they were young. It is that we were children. Okay, we were maybe 13, some of us 13, 14, 15. We were like children for music, and I think we could have learned Turkish music and Western at the same time. Anyway, I went to a teacher secretly from the school. And how I started. The teacher, at that time I thought maybe how I looked was, maybe the teacher thought that I wasn't gonna make it. Because I think I had the earring, I had long hairs and stuff. So he gave me a very difficult task. Or maybe this is my assumption, maybe he didn't think like this. He said, go and cut the mop pipe, 60 centimeters, and do your mouth like this. Bring it from this side or that side. You will make this sound, some sound like this. If you manage, then come back. I don't want money. If you manage, you can come back. That was a really hard task, because it's like playing a kızney, starting the kızney from the closed position, like all the holes are closed. But the thing is that this was a bit big. I am not used to. It was maybe 2 centimeters diameter. Not good shape. Maybe a bit rough. So I was supposed to make it's an empty hollow plastic pipe, which there is some cover on the. I think within 5 days. Sometimes I had it, but within 4 or 5 days I managed to do it constantly. Next week I went, and then he accepted me. Then he ordered Ney from Izmir, from his teacher. He was a very good teacher. And then I went to a choir. This was a youth choir of Kültür Bakanlığı, the Minister of Culture in Ankara, youth choir. So that was a good experience for me because I was accompanying a choir and sometimes soloists. When there is soloists, we need to play very low, softly. When there is choir, we need to just play like very powerful, like a trumpet. We try to play. It was a very good experience. I was trying both nuances. What's it called? Dynamics. I was training myself to play in different dynamics for 1 year, and then I went to Konya.
Murat, you mentioned this very common experience of learning to play on something which is not a ney, in other words, just a piece of tubing. I think this has happened to many of us. I think this is how I first started making a sound also. And this connects to something we mentioned before, which is the origin of the ney and how it came about. And I've received a question here from Raoul, who says, how did the ney develop into what it is now, and how was the science developed to put the holes in the right place for the desired note? So we can talk about that in a second, but I just wanted to show everybody that I have here a piece of tubing of the kind which probably similar to what Murat started to learn on, and as you can see, it's just literally a aluminium tube, and it has no holes in it. Now, we were talking earlier, speculating about the origin of the ney, and so if we take a piece of bamboo or a piece of grass and we hollow it, so it's just like an empty tube like this, then you can actually play an overtone series, and in fact a pentatonic scale like this. If you block the end, you can get more notes, so you get. So this is really, really simple technology. It's like the most basic thing. And it's an instrument called a filimbi in East Africa, in Tanzania. And we were speculating earlier that not only might it have been the thing that we learned to play, both Murat and I learned to play on, but also an organic version of this kind of instrument might have been the origin of the ney way back in history. So we know that it was, we were talking earlier about Sumerian flutes. We know that we have 5,000 years of history of something which is pretty similar to a ney, but probably tens of thousands of years of history before that, of instruments which didn't survive in any form, which probably were played in this way, because this is a really, really basic and simple way to make a sound on a tube. Murat, do you want to say something about this science of where to put the holes for the notes? I mean, the question Raoul asked was, does it involve knowledge of mathematics? And I think it does, but it's mainly, I think, done through, as you said, copying and trial and error more than mathematical abstractions. But do you want to say anything about how the holes are determined, the positions for the holes are determined in the ney?
Sure. There is this old school. Method, probably coming from Rumi time or maybe earlier. I don't know. Which is dividing the whole length into 26 units, and in that mine has become quite different than that. A little. It's these 3 holes has become widened. Normally, the neys are, if you see the websites, Turkish websites, CNA, these are close to each other, and this is also like this one is here and this one is here. I opened them a little, but I could only open it because of the inner balance. Otherwise, it wouldn't sound good. Normally, it is like 1, 2, 3, fourth unit is dugah perde, dugah hole, and fifth is Kurdi, sixth is Segah, seventh is empty. So in my is they are a bit close to each other. When you see a picture in a Turkish website, you would see them being more apart from each other. I'm not saying mine is right, I'm just telling it. It has become like this. And then seventh is here, and eighth is here, and Chargah, ninth is Hijaz, 10th unit is Neva, 11th, 12th empty, and the 13th, which is supposed to be in the middle, because 13 is the middle of the half of 26, is Ashiran Perde, Ashiran hole. This is but everyone accepted for so many centuries that this is only this is not fully correct. The thing is that many people have found out about this, that Ney is not like a standard material. It doesn't have a standard material. It can, even if you make a Ney after, maybe if you protect it very well after 20 years, let's say it's very good intonation, after 20 years, maybe the juice of the bamboo, the kamış will be shrunk, and then it will become wider. One guy was in the documentary showing the oldest Ney in Turkey, in Dolmabahçe or Topkapı Palace, I forgot, in Topkapı, I guess. He was saying it's turned like metal. The sound when he was doing it was a 200-year-old or 300-year-old. It's from one of the Şehzades. So he was doing the sound was like metal. It has turned so much like dark brown as well. But I think this juice is gone. So you need to do renovation in the Ney within many years. I do sometimes. This part becomes the first hole becomes with the black stuff. I don't know its name in English. It fills it. Then the intonation changes. I can feel it. Then I clean it. If it is a good intonation Ney, when it's changed, I can clean it with a teaspoon. The Turkish teaspoon, very tiny, on the back side of it, gently. Then it comes back to its own intonation. But another thing, that black thing also fills this segment so much, and plus this segment, it reduces. But this becomes. So from time to time you would notice that your Ney can go out of tune. So if you are so much in depth, then you can do little touches from there or from here. Then you can bring it back to its intonation, good intonation. It's not an issue if you know how to make it. What was the original question? Did I go far?
Yeah, no, that was good. It was about the mathematical basis of the tuning of the Ney, and I think this is a really interesting question, really interesting area, because as you say, it's not as simple. If we were dealing with uniform pipes, like something that was manufactured like this, we could fix an optimum place for these things. But as you say, when you're looking at an organic thing with different variations in the distances between the nodes and the bore and all these
how much it is being narrowed, how much this is the biggest factor, how much you opened it from inside, then it becomes, if it becomes too much narrowed, then it becomes longer. I sometimes bring two Neys together, the size is the same, their diameter looks the same, they like identical, but sometimes it happened to me, it's like half tune flat, the other one, because one of them is opened too much and the other one is not opened. That shows that the other one is actually this much longer, maybe. Like it looks like they are the same, but in practically it is this much longer than the one which is opened too much. That shows that being narrowed makes the distance longer. That's why these holes are also different. Sometimes when I'm making the Ney, I am thinking how much I opened it, this from inside, then how much I should alter the holes. Or I make mistakes and then I fix it. I make notes, kind of things. You were saying something.
Yeah, I was going to say we've done a lot of talking about very detailed tuning things, and I guess people will have questions about the differences between microtonal tunings and temper tunings. These are quite technical words which some people will be familiar with, but not everyone. But I wonder, maybe the most effective way to demonstrate what we're talking about when we talk about microtonality is for you to play a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, to choose a makam that you would like to improvise in, and one which uses microtonal tuning for an expressive, expressive feeling, and maybe to just tell us which the makam is that you're going to play, and explain briefly how the tuning is different from like a Western tempo tuning.
Sure, I think Rust will be a good example. So this was a Rust tune of the intro of a tune. Yeah, in Rust makam, it is when compared to major scale of the Western music, there are lots of similarities. So Western, I don't want to name it Western though. Just like it can be also Çargah makam. Çargah makam is the same, which is like a tempered major, let's say, or Çargah. So I'm playing from sol, sol, la, si. So this one is the third degree is the main difference of Rust and the major scale. Like if you play piano and you play sol, la, si, which means G, A, B natural. This B natural is sharper than the Ney's B natural. This is not natural though. This is called Segah, and it showed as a flat looking to the other direction, which means 1 comma flat, and 1 comma means, how can I describe, in one whole tone, between sol and la there is 9 commas, and Western music between la and si there is 9 commas, so it is showed as 1 comma flat, which means like la si is like 8 comma. Then in that case, normally in Western music it's considered like 4.5 comma from C to Do, which is B to C in English notes. B to C is like 4.5 comma. Normally in Turkish music it is considered to be 4 commas if it is in Çargah makam, but here it becomes 5. That like half comma more, but this is not half, it's more than that. Our theoric structure shows a bit rough figures, and there is also flexibility. Like when we play Rust makam, so it's like if you play really Ottoman style, so you cannot say it's 1 comma. It can maybe start 1.5 comma. It goes back. It's this glissando is the part of the feeling, the part of the Rust. So when you make Rust, you bend this third degree. That makes it nice. It gives a nice flavor.
Could you play some Rust for us?
Sure. Maybe I will warm up a little bit. Just a second, maybe I would like to make my fingers visible. used the F natural on the. I didn't use the whole scale. Sol, la, si, do, re, mi, fa. This is something called Ajamli Rast. Ajam is a F natural, fa natural. So I use this branch of Rast. But Rust has other developments as well. It can develop in a different way. I use this one.
Beautiful. Thank you, Murat. It's just really nice to hear the sound of the makams, and because some people will not be familiar with these, you're using terms like ajam and rast, and people won't necessarily know what these things are. But maybe if you could show from rast, which is a very characteristic makam, maybe we could demonstrate just very briefly so people can hear a big difference between rast and something else. Maybe, I don't know, Sega or Hijaz or one of those makams which has more chromatic feeling.
Okay.
Give us a flavor so we can compare if we haven't been familiar with these things.
Sure. How about I compare Rust with major scale, which can be like a chargah on
I
so.
mean, not a major, but sorry, a different makam, not
Okay.
like something very different, so we can hear a different mood.
Sure. Nihavend could be a good idea.
Perfect.
Okay. Nihavend is very similar to a minor scale. It is like it can start where the first 5 notes. Sol, la, si bemol, do, re, G, A, B flat, C, D. I'm demonstrating on G minor. But in Ney, whatever the size of the Ney you're grabbing, you're playing, let's say if I was playing a kız Ney, it was going to sound on A minor. Because kız Ney is like this much smaller than it, it's like whole tone smaller, it's a whole tone transposition up. And each Ney has like, but we would still call it Sol, we would still call it G. This is the way of tradition of whatever we grab. Even if we play Nisfiye Ney is a small, tiny Ney, and we are playing some notation, we would still play it as Sol, which is like everything is closed is G, A, B, same. But we will know that it sounds something else, but we will call it G. So this is being said. But this is the Mansur Ney, so this is a good match with the Western music. So when I play G, it is actually G on the piano. It's only on Mansur Ney and Mansur Nisfiye, which is Nisfiye means 1 octave high of this instrument. Sol, la, si bemol, do, re. The first 5 is like this. Re, mi, fa, sol. Here is got a Kurdi. It's just here is almost everything is tempered so far. I have said re, mi bemol, fa, sol, but there is this uşak on here. Re, mi, fa, sol, sol, fa, mi, mi, re. This mi becomes a flexible note in Nihavend. So I will just do a little bit, like a half minute of the Nihavend. So far it's been tempered. I use the mi bemol as a normal mi bemol, E flat. Now I started using the mi as a different kind of mi, which cannot be found in Western music. Re, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, do, re, mi. This is different than the tempered music. Would you like me to compare Nihavend to Rast at this point, or how shall I continue?
I don't think we need to go into too much depth, right? I think it's just for people maybe who haven't heard the different moods of the different makams. I think it maybe too much to go into technical details right now, but just thinking that some of the moods that are created by the very, very different makams,
Okay, I understand now your point.
for example, the ones that, that are not similar to Western modes at all. For example, I'm thinking like Sega, for example, is not like a Western major minor
Yeah,
scale at all. It has
yeah,
a very specific character and is very unusual in that way.
sure. I can show a little bit of Sega. Shall I do that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have 8 minutes left, I think. So yeah.
Okay, maybe
Great.
not more than a minute then for this.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I should say there's a question from Melika. I think it is. If apologies, Melika, if I'm saying her name wrong. Um, she's asking how long does it take to become good at recognizing scales and improving the musical ear? And I just wanted to say, after hearing you play, you make it sound so easy, but for those of us who have tried to study the Turkish Ney tradition, this is something which is so difficult to do. First of all, to make this kind of sound on the Ney is really, really difficult. And I have to say, of all the Neys that I've listened to, and that's quite a few, you have really an amazing sound and an amazing control of the intonation and color within the sound is really amazing. So thank you so much. And so obviously Malik is asking a very difficult question, which is how do we improve our musical ear and how long does it take? And I guess the thing is, it depends. Is always the answer. You know, it depends how much time you put in and how hard you're prepared to work on these things and how much you listen and all these things. But just in very briefly, because we're coming to the end, how would you advise people to learn to hear these scales and small variations in pitch that are necessary within these microtonal traditions?
Yeah, there are lots of factors in Ney learning, and one of them is honestly luck, kısmet. One of them is that. But there is also like how your efforts, your talent, but this kısmet factor, which is like a luck factor, cannot be. It is there, you know, because sometimes a person can play a little bit, but maybe his or her Ney is not good, or there is a problem. Maybe she doesn't know or he doesn't know that the Ney is a crack, or maybe there's something simple that she cannot close the hole properly. Because of that, she cannot continue or he cannot continue better then that's also another luck factor. Then if someone he sees a good player, then that person can easily rotate him to the right, navigate him to the right direction, and then he can quickly overcome the difficulties. And yeah, lots of factors. Yeah, also having a good ney, the ney that suits you. Some of the students could achieve, some of my friends could achieve very quickly to come to a certain level. Some couldn't. It was also in trombone when maybe it's so much in wind instruments, because there is so much things going on inside the mouth that you cannot see actually. Maybe it can be different than guitar or instruments like that you can see more, that a teacher can show solidly that you are doing wrong, your finger must be like this. It's a bit different than that. But how long? If the person is talented and lucky and he or she has a good ney, and with continuous practice every day, even if it's a very busy day, like in the end of the day, 10 minutes, grab it in your hand so that you didn't forget what you achieved yesterday. If this is applied every day, I think in 1-2 years, there will be a constant tone, which will always improve. The tone is always improving. I still play lots of long notes. Every day I practice still a lot of technical things. Yeah, but maybe I could say 1-2 years. There will be constant tone, and that you can produce music nicely.
Great, that's really fantastic, Murat, to hear, because I think there's probably some people listening who are very interested to learn the ney. We're getting some comments here in the chat. I'm noticing that people are saying appreciative things about your playing, Murat, and also about the kismet factor is very interesting. This element of the unknown or luck in the process of learning is something that I think often gets lost in our modern way of thinking. And yes, so we're just coming up to 6:59. We have to end very soon. I would say to everyone who's here, thank you for joining. And also that not to forget, and this is something I've experienced from my own teaching, is that the ney in these difficult corona times is a very useful tool for kind of self-medication and calming down your breathing and slowing you down and learning patience, and it's something to do in the lockdown time. So if anyone's looking to maybe discover this new state of mind, then contact Murat for more lessons. So I think we should probably just reach 7 o'clock. People are saying thank you on the chat. I would like to say thank you to you, Murat, for giving us such a fascinating and interesting talk and for playing for us. And also, obviously, thank you to Yunus Emre and to Leighton House. If you have any last comments, Murat, before we end, I think that's all I need to say.
Thank you so much, Jan. And I would like to mention that you are a great teacher and a great music person. And it's been like an honor to have this chat with you. And the way you navigated us was very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Murat. It's always a pleasure to see you and to hear you again. And we should talk soon. Mehmet is pointing out we have courses at Yunus Emre if anyone wants to find out more about the ney. So please do be in touch and check out the Yunus Emre website for information about these things. I don't know if anyone from Yunus Emre wants to say anything. I think we're reaching the end of the talk. So thank you very much for attending, everybody, and hope to see you again.
Thank you.